All right, for our anemone composition, I thought it would be really fun to do an all-over pattern. And I'm going to use some tape and tape the edges down. This is just a professional painter's tape. And I'm just going to tape the edges. This is definitely not required to do this, but I thought it would be fun just in case I had some elements kind of bleed off of the edge. It would be fun to have a really solid white line around the outside. Now for an all-over pattern, I like to start with my biggest focal flower first. And in that case, or in this case, it is our anemone. And I wanted to do kind of a fuchsia purple pink color here. These colors are really similar. Sometimes I forget that I have these are really, really similar. They're not the exact same color, but they're so similar, and I forget that I don't need them both on this palette because they just look so much alike. But I'm just mixing myself a little fuchsia. And now I'm going to just go in and start adding in some anemone flowers. There's not really a rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to start adding them in. Now, while this is still wet, I'm going to add in just a little bit of color right here in the center. And I'm kind of going around the very center because I know I'm going to cover that up later with my darker center. All right, and I'll just continue adding more of these anemones throughout. And I'm going to change up the angle on some of these a little bit too. Okay, now I'm going to add in a second focal flower. And I'm going to do kind of a loose rose, just a smaller version of a rose so that these can stay the largest element. And I want to paint these kind of a peachy orange color. So I'm starting with brilliant orange and then adding in a little bit of shell pink just to soften that up a little bit. And a little bit of, let's do isoindolin yellow. That turned a little too orange, so now I'm going to add in a little bit more of my other colors. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now I've got those secondary flowers in place. I'm going to start adding in my leaves. Move these brushes out of the way. And I'm going to use this is my cadmium yellow medium hue. And let's see here. When I'm doing an all-over pattern like this, especially, I like to start where things make the most sense. And then I can kind of reevaluate and decide where things should go from there. Now, you have to decide a couple things too. Do I want to add in stems to my flowers? Do I want to just keep it with leaves and no stems? I think in this case I'm going to add a couple of stems just because I want to add a couple more filler flowers that will have some stems, and I don't want those to feel like the only flowers that have stems. So I'm going to start here and add in a stem. I added in some teal and that just kind of took over everything. So now I'm going to add back in a little bit of Hooker's green, a little permanent green, quite a bit of water to soften it up, and then a little bit, I'm going to do yellow ochre this time. Alright, now I'm going to start adding in some leaves. Now I'm trying to mix up the green a little bit because I don't want them all to feel exactly the same. And that's just a personal preference for me. If you want all of your greens to be the same, you can totally do that. Now when you're doing an all-over pattern, you'll notice that I've kind of used the same colors at the same time. So I started with my anemone, and then I moved on to my roses, and then I'm moving on to my greens, and I'm kind of using the same color in different areas as I go. That's just to help my eye kind of sort out where I need a little bit more color and to keep things balanced. I'm kind of dancing around the painting rather than staying in one spot and then moving on to another spot. I'm kind of working with the whole piece as I go. Alright, now that I have most of the leaves in place, I'm going to add one more filler flower. I'm going to do some yellow berries. Alright, now most of the pattern is done, so I'm going to just go in and fill in a couple little awkward white spaces and then call it done. Well, call the pattern done, and then we're going to go back and add in more little details to finish the whole thing off. Alright, now I'm going to go in and add my dark centers to the anemone. And I'm going to mix a little bit of black with some dark purple. All right, I think I'm going to call this done. And now one of my favorite parts is getting to pull off the tape and see that clean edge.